couple of things before we start. After the screening, we're going to be doing a short Q&A with the two producers of the film. If you have any questions, that is the time to ask them, not now. Obviously, you've got to see the film first. Other thing, please, I know it's said time and time again, mobile phones. I won't ask you to turn them off, no one does. Please make sure they're on silent if they aren't. Without further ado, to introduce the film, we've got the producers of the film, Hamish McAlpine and Chris Cohen.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming. Thanks to XFM and Cineworld for hosting tonight. Film is released this Friday, so please, everybody, tell your family and friends. We need your support. We'll be here afterwards to answer questions. So in the meantime, sit back, relax, and in the words of Michael Haneke, I wish you a disturbing screening.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether saying enjoy yourselves is the right verb, but you'll be seeing something really extraordinary, and look forward to seeing you all later.
Okay, important lesson to be learned there, landline, eggs and manners, not necessarily in that order. Hamish McAlpine and Chris Cohen, you are the producers of the film. We're going to have a quick chat and then I'll hand it over to you guys as well. And we'll just have a sort of short question and answer session. First off, you two are producers of the film. Just very, very briefly, a lot of people do have a problem with the title producer as to what that entails. Could you just quickly give us a short rundown of your duties?
Yeah, basically the film was, I don't think my mic is working, but can everyone hear me okay? Yeah. Okay. Basically as producers, we came up with the idea of doing the remake for Funny Games. We then raised the money to make the film. Originally, I have to say, it wasn't necessarily our intention for Michael Haneke to be the director. We rather fell upstairs when he, as Chris will probably say later, when we were in the middle of negotiations, which had been going on for about, what, a year, 18 months, and then his lawyer suddenly said, well, there's a condition. You can only make the remake if Michael directs it himself. So we went, oh, that's a really big problem, and then we went out and got really drunk, and next morning we said, well, okay, yeah, we'll accept that. So we really did everything, if you like. It's the producer's job to hire the directors, to work with the director on casting, and really a sort of director takes over first day of shooting. Yeah. But it's the producer's job, and then it's the producer's job to make sure that the film comes in on budget, and also then to go through the editing to make the best possible film you can.
Michael Haneke, obviously, he made a version of this in Germany in '97, I think it was, 11 years ago. Since then, he's done films like Cachet, which Hidden. I don't know if anyone's seen Hidden, a big French hit from last year. To get him to essentially revisit a piece of his work, that must have been a huge coup.
Well, it wasn't really, as I said, it wasn't our idea. I mean, funny enough, because if I could just speak for a couple of seconds, then Chris will probably talk about the actual making of the film. Because Chris was on set the whole time. I had, unfortunately, deal with my mother's death, so Chris took over all of that. But originally, Chris and I both had the same idea, and we were friends, but we didn't know that the other had the same idea. And then one night we were sort of talking about sort of 3 o'clock in the morning about what projects we're doing, and we knew that we each had a rival, and we suddenly discovered that it was each other. So we then immediately agreed that we'd join forces, and my idea actually was to do it with Wes Craven. I don't know who was on your shortlist, Chris.
I hadn't even got there.
Yeah.
Really, it was a coup to get the project in the first place. I didn't think he'd even agree to give us the remake rights, to be honest. So, yeah.
But for a long time, we had never had an intention of, or I guess we never even dared think that Haneke would be interested in doing the remake. You know, it came from him.
I don't think we just didn't think about it. I mean, the thought of him wanting to do it didn't even cross our minds.
And now it's done. I mean, just watching that, as an actual shoot, it looks like it must have been not a barrel of laughs for the actors themselves. It looks like a really difficult piece of work to pull off.
And the crew as well.
How long was the shoot?
9 weeks.
9 weeks.
Yeah.
9 weeks of running around in a bra and pants and crying and.
She had a tough time, and she did a pretty great job. Right?
So I think one of the things definitely, I mean, she really is the sort of the centerpiece. One of the things that obviously that I think we ought to talk about is what Michael Haneke was in your opinion, pretty much trying to say about that, because it isn't a simple stalk and slash. It isn't a suburban psychos. There is an underlying stronger point.
Yeah, he basically, I think when Michael made the original film at the time, there were a lot of overtly kind of violent movies coming out like Reservoir Dogs and Natural Born Killers, and he made a film called Benny's Video, which was quite violent, but he was accused by a lot of American critics of making a very violent film, and he just kind of questioned why they were accusing him of making a violent film when all these other films were coming out or they were doing extremely well in the cinemas, and no one was really accusing them of, being overtly violent, the directors at least. With that in mind, he then decided to write this film. He decided to take that genre and basically turn it on its head and do it in a completely opposite fashion. So essentially, he's kind of de-glamorizing violence, supposedly. So everything you see in that film, if you think about the average Hollywood genre movie, horror genre movie, everything is basically different. The good guys, they win. The bad guys, they never win. And he just basically, he's screwing with the audience. He's twisting it all, and when there's any hope in the film, he just takes it away from you, and he's kind of screwing with you all,
And I think also there's, in fact, there's actually some clinical psychological expression called happy violence. And as a distributor, what I find is when I'm having battles with the British Board of Film Classification, that the films they always object to, and I have the fights with, are about films where the violence is disturbing. They never mind if it's fun, if it's sort of Arnold Schwarzenegger in the old days when Haneke was making this, or the Stallone films, going, yeah, great, another guy's just been killed, and it's violence as entertainment. And what Haneke wanted to do to make a film which was the opposite, to show actually how horrific violence is, and as an audience, should you really be enjoying getting off, watching people being killed and hurt? There is a reaction.
There is something great about the bit where it rewinds, because not so much as a conceit, but as an audience, you sit there and you go, oh no, the rug's just been pulled away once more. It's a constant sort of series, if you like.
That's the final screw.
Yeah. Well, let's turn. Are there any questions from anyone in the audience? I'm quite happy to witter away, but yes.
Why do you see it as kind of shooting yourself in the foot a bit, making a film that goes out of its way to be unpleasant?
Well, I think one of the criticisms of the original film, I remember from Jeff Andrew, who was then the film editor of Time Out, was he was saying that Michael Haneke almost had it both ways, because actually it also works quite well as a sort of Hitchcockian thriller. And so, while on the other hand it's anti-violence, but Jeff said, but on the other hand actually, the film is a very good and entertaining, if I can use that word. So, being, obviously, as I distributed the original film myself and having been heavily involved in it, I knew that the film did work with audiences very well, as I'd been through all this with the original.
Yes.
Hiya. Would you have thought that if you had have handed it to another director, such as Wes Craven, that a lot of the original message would have been lost?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Were you kind of happy for that to happen?
Well, I think Wes Craven's quite
well,
actually, I think Wes Craven
yeah.
actually is quite intelligent. Whether you read any of his,
Yeah.
he's also written a book and whatever. And no, certainly, in fact, one of the battles that Chris and I had constantly when we were trying to get the film financed was that financiers kept saying, oh, well, couldn't they not have a dog? Or could the kid get away into the woods or whatever else? And there was an expression which we used. There was a very bad remake of a one film called The Vanishing, which the director George Sluizer then remade himself for Hollywood. And whereas in the original, the hero dies, if you like, he's looking for his wife's killer. And in the original, he dies. But in the Hollywood film, it had a happy ending. And I always said that we will never be Sluizered. We were absolutely determined that we were going to stick true to the intellectual content of the original. So, no, whoever the director was, it would have been vital that otherwise there would be no point in making the film if we'd betrayed its sort of intellectual conceit.
And Michael Haneke wouldn't have allowed that anyway. I mean, that's really why he came on board with it himself. The last thing he would have allowed is anyone to bastardize his vision.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to leap in with the actors. For the actors, it's an incredible piece because it's set a single sort of location, a couple of deviations from that, and the focus is on them the entire way through. I presume that that's one of the things that appealed to actors of the calibre of Tim and Roth and of Naomi Watts. Mm-hmm. Do you think it's quite a stagey piece? Does it seem that way to you?
Yes, a certain amount. I mean, I think they did a good job considering it was, very staged.
Yeah.
We were there on the set. I mean, it was,
Do you think
it
that
was?
adds? I do, but I think it adds to the sense of what you're watching is there for your enjoyment. It's not something you necessarily look at and think, this looks like it's constrained and it's been done on the cheap. But it adds to that sort of sense of claustrophobia, which is there the whole way through.
It's a hard one for me because I was there on the set for 9 weeks, so all I can remember is a stage. I don't know. I mean, it'd be interesting to ask the audience what whether they thought it was or not, or felt on stage.
Because the original, in a way, had more to camera, which if you like is a very sort of theatrical device. So there are one or two differences. Somebody pointed out, which I've forgotten, actually, the breed of dog was different.
A couple of subtle differences. Yeah.
But probably the most important one was actually that there is far less to camera, as we thought that would cause a problem for maybe a wider and particularly an American audience.
You must have seen it loads of times compared to us who've just seen it once. I have seen it before. Do you still watch it and find it unsettling?
Do you know what? I just watched it for the first time in probably 4 months. I'm very unsettled. I really am. Actually, probably more than because I was watching it so many times during the editing process with a bit of time away. It's pretty shocking.
So, I mean, how did everyone find it? Did you? Can I ask you? You're sitting over there, and you're beginning to smile. How did you find the film?
It was very disturbing. It was very unpleasant to watch, but still an interesting experience.
I was going to say, good disturbing or bad disturbing?
Bad disturbing. So it achieves.
But it's made you
what it
think, and
sets
you'll
out
take
to
something
do.
with you, having seen the film.
Yeah, it's the emotions it brings up, and as you say, it's sort of constant disappointment, and you want so badly for them to get away and for something good to happen, and it just doesn't. And it just sort of
Can I ask a question, turn things back on their head? Could everyone put their hands up who thought that Naomi Watts was going to make it? No, you all knew by then. It was that because everyone had seen it.
Just on another thing, I mean, put your hands up if you thought that the young son would be the first to buy the farm. Anyone?
I saw the original, so.
Oh, right, yeah, cheat. Yeah, I think that's a really shocking moment. And again, I think another shocking moment is the dog flopping out of the back of the car. This is going to be the least intelligent question of the evening. But where do you buy a dead dog?
You know what? Trust me, it looked a lot better than it did on set. It really did. It was a problem. It took 2 days to do that.
Yeah.
It was very fake. Trust me.
Someone makes fake dead dogs. God bless America. Yeah. Any other questions or any other? If anyone's got a particular sort of passionate feel for the film, either pro or con. Yes.
I just wanted to ask about the. Did you say it was it de-glamorized violence? Is that what you were talking about earlier?
Yeah, there was a
To a degree. I mean, I think that the fact that a lot of those films over-glamorize violence. Here, you watch this and, you're pretty, I mean, everybody, it seems, are completely shocked by what they've just seen. If you watch a film like Hostel, you come out, it doesn't really stay with you, does it? I mean, it's just, it's horrific to a degree, but it kind of almost glamorizes violence. Whereas this is so horrific. For me, and that's how I always felt when I first saw it. It completely de-glamorizes violence, and that's what I really took from the film.
Do you disagree with that?
A little bit, because I think that kind of that music that's used, and it's all quite like exciting when that comes on at the end. And at the beginning, it's sort of framed with that music, and it's all like, I don't know, it's just quite
You didn't
dramatic.
like the music?
And I like the music. I don't know. I just don't think it entirely de-glamorizes violence.
I think the fact that so much of the violence is off screen and you don't see much of it, that's the sort of point, really.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
The lady in purple had her hand up just first.
The movie doesn't really make a statement that it was a terrible, violent movie. For me, it was the characters or the main characters were actually talking to us, so we were actually taking part in it, stopping it. So therefore, it's like saying all of the everyone talking about all the horror films or violent films, you're watching them to stop comparing it, and that's what it's actually really does.
If I could give you maybe an analogy, I don't know if anyone here has seen a film called Man Bites Dog, which in a way intellectually was a very similar film, which is about a film crew who are going out and they're filming a serial killer. And it's done as a comedy. And it's very, very funny, but the killings get worse and worse and worse. And the audience are laughing, and then they begin to laugh less and less, and then suddenly he does something really horrific, and the audience is then really turned off, and then they start feeling guilty that they've actually been laughing during the first 2/3 of the film. And I think this film, it's really about the audience reaction. It's about what people feel personally to watching scenes of violence. Not so much in this film, but when you go and see whether it's Hostel or Saw or a lot of, or even just more straightforward action movies. You know, to really take a delight. It's a battle scene. You see people's heads being lopped off with an, you know, people go, yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah.
And so, and that's really what this film is about. It's about people getting off and seeing other people being hurt.
I think Michael Haneke once in an interview said the correct response to watching this film, if you understand the message, is to leave the cinema, which is an inherent sort of, you know, dichotomy, I suppose, in what they're doing. The lady behind you.
Yeah, I was just going to actually disagree with what the other person said about the music, the really heavy music that starts at the beginning and at the end. I thought that was really jarring on my senses because, I mean, even though they're doing these horrific things, they're completely calm throughout as well, so it really jars with that as well. And the fact that there was no end music after that, I don't know whether that was just because we were in this screening, or there is no end music with the credits.
There isn't. You're meant to be
really
suddenly like,
struggled with
think
that
shit, and you're suddenly...
it couldn't separate me from the film, because the end music is like the credits coming up,
Yeah.
that's it, back to reality. But
Yeah.
I was still in the film because there was no music
Yeah.
to kind of...
Haneke did that deliberately.
He's
Yeah.
a smart man.
To take me out of it, yeah. It was,
And the other thing also, of course, the music is also meant to contrast, of course, when they're playing their bourgeois game of Guess the Opera. You know, so then there's the contrast with, you know, the other world as opposed to their sort of bourgeois bliss.
It made me think of those sort of bits that you do get in Hostel and Saw, where you get the industrial grindcore metal kind of starting just as the sort of chainsaws rev out. But obviously that's
Here you
something
go, get ready for this.
that happens to have come along, you know, since that was done originally. Your second point, can you remind me what it was? It just made me the music at the end.
yeah.
Yeah, it's sort of when it ends, it is that sort of unsettling end where it just sort of drops off. The film itself wraps up with the neat sort of ending, but the lack of music at the end. This really is a film that you're supposed to go out thinking, I don't feel very happy.
I think Haneke would be really upset if anyone left the cinema looking remotely happy.
Yeah.
I think he wanted everyone to leave the cinemas sort of shell-shocked and stunned into silence.
Definitely. And the two characters who are referred to by different names throughout, the young guys who play them, did anyone find them sympathetic in any way? Was anyone on side with them? Were they just creepy? I began thinking it was that they're just posh boys and they're
All
inherently
posh
hateable. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, sympathetic in the sense that American remakes are generally really bad. And I suppose sympathetic from the point of view that I kind of wanted the characters to be like they were in the original. So yeah, I mean, definitely.
How does it compare for you with the original?
As shocking.
Mhm.
Yeah, definitely.
As shocking, that's quite sort of strong for a film that you've seen a version of before.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Usually American remakes aren't true to the original.
That's why Michael decided to make exactly the same
And
film.
as producers, I mean, obviously there's what kind of spurs you on really to remake a movie into American version? Is it getting it to a wider audience? Is that what?
Well, that was basically, I mean, you know,
Or is it money?
when I speaking, you know, from my point of view, when I first saw the original film, I watched it 2 or 3 times. I was incredibly disturbed by it, and I started researching Haneke as a director and why he made Funny Games. And the more I researched, the more I realized that, you know, he made it for a specific audience, and they never saw it. And I thought maybe there was an opportunity there for that audience to see it, and also, obviously, you know, we're producers, so we felt that commercially it was potentially a winner for us. So we went ahead and approached Michael.
How far do you think you can push that? You know, like say Benny's video, do you think you can translate that into that?
No, I think this one it stands on its own. It's specific to this film because it really was intended for an audience that didn't see it. I think was it $4,000 was the
Yeah,
the gross?
$5,873 it took in the whole of America when it was released in its original version.
Yeah.
So and at the time, I remember
we felt
being
it was
really
a
shocked.
Language issue?
The what?
Is that a language issue?
Personally, you know what? I think it is. I do think so. I mean, you saw the original film. What were the differences for you? Do you think you got?
To be honest, it's that long ago that I saw it.
Because I spent a lot of time trying to translate the film from the subtitles on the original film.
Yeah.
And that's when I realized they were completely screwed up. they actually made they made enough sense because people didn't understand the film, but they didn't make a lot of sense, word by word, line by line. It was really tough. And in the end, Michael had to come in with an American writer and spend a week making sense of what we were trying to make sense of. So in that respect, what you're seeing here is a far cleaner version in a way. So it's in English. It's easier for us to understand. Not that I don't think the message was necessarily lost on people from the original film. But, I think this is just a far, small.
Do you think in a wider sort of world of film, do you think that foreign films will ever be able to break the UK and the US market?
I think they do. I mean, you release a lot of foreign films,
Yeah,
in the UK.
we released a lot of foreign language films. I mean, it's very rare, you have, whether it's the Amelie or the Crouching Tigers, but they're very, very rare. I mean, it's quite shocking, actually, that in North America, you often find that the films gross less money with 250 million people than they do in the UK.
Right, you're talking more about the US, aren't you?
Yeah, and it's difficult to get the films into cinemas, all sorts of
Right.
technical reasons why it's difficult for foreign films to work in the US.
But they do work in the UK pretty well.
Yeah.
Are you suggesting they don't?
No. I mean, certainly from a multiplex point of view, something like this will be playing in screens.
Right. We have an infrastructure here that looks after it.
Yeah. To a far greater degree in the States, is that
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Do they have one?
I think in San Francisco, LA, and New York, you might find a few screens.
Right. Yeah. Those towns.
Absolutely.
Any other questions? I noticed a hand going up quite tentatively. Hold on. Yes.
I just wanted to go. It was amazing.
Yeah.
I really, because the reason I heard of this is because I'm such a huge fan of Michael Pitt and Freddie Colbert.
All right.
And I just thought they were incredible in that. I thought they were, I don't want to say much better than the original, but I think they had,
I think they're pretty
gave
amazing.
more to it, and they...
I think Michael Pitt, Brady's wonderful, but for me, Michael Pitt really is a revelation. He brings something very special. I think he's bloody funny in it as well, personally. Watch it again, see if you can see a little more humour next time.
But thank you.
Oh, and will it be like played in Newcastle or is it just going to be like just...
I think it is in
No, I think it is in
I'm not sure.
Newcastle. It's opening on about 75 prints. Whereas like a big Hollywood blockbuster would open on 300 to 400. So it's quite a respect. It's not just going out on 6 or 10. So so I'm sure it will.
Yeah. The other lady who's seen the original, I was going to just ask. I mean, how did you feel it compared?
I'm a huge fan of Haneke, so it's for me the first time I heard the idea of Funny Games United States, I was like, oh my god, what are they doing? I was really disappointed. Now that I saw the movie, it's not an American version. I'm really happy because of that.
You thought there'd be changes and they'd recognize it?
Yeah, exactly.
Even with him directing, you thought he'd do that?
Like it's George Sluizer really wrecked it for everybody.
Yeah,
but I think everyone thinks, oh my god, the film's going to be Americanized.
But I think it to have Haneke as a director was the best choice, and he didn't change his style or I couldn't notice the differences really. So yeah.
There aren't many.
And
It's 4 minutes longer.
when I heard Naomi Watts, I was like, oh my god, a beautiful woman. I was sure that it was going to be an American movie, so I'm glad it's not.
Good.
Well, any more questions at all? I think we're all done. Just a quick straw poll, if you don't mind. This must be horrible, sitting up here having just watched a film that you made and devoted all your life to. But be as honest as you can. If we go for good, bad, and indifferent,
we're out.
Can I just see a show of hands for good? Yeah. Ah, I see.
Well done.
Worth having eyes open.
Well done.
Right. Do you know what? I'm not going to push the luck any further. No bad or indifferent. Guys,
Thank you
please,
everyone
a round of
for
applause to Hamish McIntosh. I've got to say hello, by the way. I'm Mark from XFM. The breakfast show. If you do fancy listening tomorrow, you're more than welcome. We have an open door policy. But thank you very much for coming.
And if you want to see the original Funny Games, it's available on Tartan Video now.
It's if you want, it's probably a great Mother's Day present. So thank you very much for coming. Once again, the producers, thank you.
Thanks.